Good morning, Seaside. I am here today. My name is Kristen Kavanagh, and I'm here today with Karen Lindsay, who is also an instructor here at Seaside Yoga. We both came into the studio this morning to do some recording for you, some yoga sequences, but we thought it would also be beneficial to have a conversation. I've been and also Karen, we're talking. We've both been dealing with a little bit of panic. We're here at the 28th of March, and rent is due in a few days, and a lot of us have been out of work, and a lot of us are kind of freaking out right now about pending bills and rent being due. So we wanted to open up the conversation that we were having with you guys out there in case you're feeling some of this. We started this conversation talking about the different responses that are brought up when we go into panic mode. Two of the responses that we discussed were, first off, this kind of reactionary, taking action without really thinking things through, which tends to be where I'm at. The other response tends to be this kind of mechanism to shut down. So we drop into this fight or flight mechanism in the sympathetic nervous system that we talk about a lot in yoga. So that's kind of how we started the conversation. Right. And I asked Karen just now if, is it productive to dissect that fear a little bit? So when we go into panic mode because the rent is due, we're not necessarily panicked over rent being due, we're panicked about the fears that underlie that. So do you think that is a productive exercise, or do you think that we kind of get off track that way? Does it help us get more off track than be productive?
Well, the propensity towards panic is evolutional, so it has to be productive. It is something that is helpful to us. And I think it is an alarm bell for a reason. And so it's kind of doing what do you do with that reason? I have a good friend who has asked people on Facebook to answer what they fear most right now. And I was kind of torn by that question because I thought, well, aren't we just talking about fears then, But at the same time, as I've looked through some of the answers he's gotten, it's also really valid for him to be validating that there is fear going on, so start talking about it. And he's taking the opportunity to encourage each person who's able to answer. And that, to me, when I saw that and realized while I have a natural incline to not want to focus on negative things, it still is not a positive time right now. So acknowledging it for what it is, and then being proactive with what you do with it, I think are the two most important things with that.
And that theory of what you resist persists, right? And if we don't look at it, it's just going to be this kind of nagging thing underneath that continues to spin us out of control and into that panic. So my exercise that I do for myself is when I'm feeling that panic, I look at the worst case scenario. I backtrack to all the fears, right? And I go, what's the absolute worst that can happen if I don't make my rent payment in the next few days, right? Am I going to be without a roof over my head? Am I going to be without food in my belly? And those are the two big ones. Will I have a roof over my head? Will I have food in my belly? And it's obviously that's never actually happened for me. I know it's happened for others, and that is a real fear for a lot of people. But if I can go to that place and acknowledge that things aren't to that point, they're not even close to being to that point right now, then I can retreat back into the safety of the present moment and try to find a state of gratitude for what I do have, and I can find a little bit of peace in that, and I can ease up that. I hold fear in my gut. I hold it, and I can get those little butterflies of just panic that hit me throughout the day lately, and I can come back to where I'm breathing into that space and creating that space back for myself. So that's kind of, I guess, my tool for coping with that.
And then remembering, like, the collectiveness of it, that you're not alone in this. I think that's one of the things we do when we start hitting tough times, is feeling like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? how do I fix this? And what needs to be fixed is everybody's problem. So that includes the landlord. That includes the yogis who are missing their classes here. Like, it's not just your problem. So I think when you address it, you've got to address it collectively. So it's to say, hey, what are we all doing? You know, like, here's what I can do. Where are you at with what you can do? How and start the conversation. I've talked with a number of people who talk about, like, what's in place, you know. So I know we can do this, and I know we can do that. With my own kids, they were telling me, okay, this and this and this is in place, and I said, that's all great, but just make sure you communicate with the person that this is impacting. You know, that they might have ideas and they might have places they can help, and they actually share the burden with you. So it's not even turning to them saying help. It's here's what I can do, and here's and meet me, you know, in the middle with that one. I think it's one of the biggest lessons of COVID is that we all are reminded that we're in this together.
Oh my gosh, I have chills. It's the. Can you remember the last time we had a collective global experience?
Right.
Like,
right.
I don't know that it's ever even happened in my lifetime where I am in the same position as someone in Italy. I'm in the same position as someone in China. I mean, it's something that everyone in the world is dealing with right now. Is that rent is due in 3 days. Everyone in the world is out of work right now. Everyone in the world has a rent due in 3 days. They're not going to put all of us out on our collective asses, right? I mean, there has to be some light in that,
right?
In that sense of connection. And I think if we can hold on to that sense of connection and stay present in the moment and come back to that state of gratitude for what we do have and these things that are keeping us safe, and the generosity of the people around us. There are a lot of people who are being so generous in this time. Not everyone, but a lot of people are really putting themselves out there to hold space for and protect our way of life.
I was thinking about yesterday. I've had to make some decisions that are way out of my comfort zone. I'm having to get creative with my own life and stretching myself further than I ever have. And I certainly never would have had all of this not gone on. And I thought, oh my gosh, like, I literally could be a totally different person after this, as far as any career options I've ever chosen, as far as the people who surround me. Like, it's just wild how this is forcing me out of my comfort zone in a way that only it can do. It's kind of cool. Yeah. Yeah.
It is kind of cool.
I literally can't even anticipate when the other side.
So I've been at night. I've been making lists depending on how I'm feeling at night before I go to bed. So the first list I made is I am scared of, and I filled a whole page of things that I am scared of. The next night I was feeling really grateful, so I made an entire list of the things that I'm grateful for. The next night I was feeling excited about what the world is going to look like on the other side of COVID. And so I wrote a whole list about things that I'm excited about on the other side of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes just getting that brain drain, right? Getting those thoughts, whether they're bad thoughts or good thoughts, but getting them out of your head and into your reality, onto paper, it's a really helpful exercise. And even if that's not a list, maybe it's just a free write we call brain drain, or, you know, there's an exercise morning pages or evening pages where you just get whatever's in your head out onto paper. That can be a really good exercise if you're feeling that panic or that fear or that anxiousness. And I think that's another thing. We touched on this before we turned the camera on in our conversation, and that's we tend to be absorbing the energy around us a lot right now. And this energy that's coming through the internet is so intense. It's so intense. It's like laser focused on some really scary things right now. And we as energetic beings are absorbing the energy of everything and everyone around us. So depending on who you're around on a daily basis and what, you know, websites or news sources or feeds that you're looking at, we absorb all that stuff. So if we don't want that to overwhelm us, what can we do to bring it back to a blank slate, right?
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. I've been reflecting on too, like, because what we are in is a time that we can no longer drift, and we've got to be proactive. And it's really interesting because we're all being proactive in our quarantining and staying home. And in order to impact the masses, we are having to take care of our own head. like our own world, and do something about that. So even as you were talking, I think lists are great. I make them all the time. But I also think, and I do mean the word in that to switch it, you've got to counter those thoughts. So if you're making a list of what you fear, you've got to commit to the list of what you've got.
Right, that's true.
And what you can do. I've worked with a number of people that one of the first steps I take in working with people is I need you to think of 3 great things every single day. And sometimes it's that the sun is yellow, like you can't come up with too much. And other times you're just abundant with things you're thankful for. But that's the proactive step in your own mind that has to happen right now, and everyone, I do believe, needs to commit to in order to impact the masses. What are we doing in our own personal level?
Well, that's the other side of it. So we're absorbing all this stuff, but what are we doing, you're right, to project a different energy forward for other people to absorb, right? So are we perpetuating that fear, that panic, that anxiousness by what we're projecting out there into the world? Or are we projecting love and light and hope and positivity?
Right.
And we can fake it till we make it sometimes too, you know, and sometimes that works.
And remembering, like, to fake it is not reality either, because it's not all bad. It's just not right now.
Right. It's true.
We all live in Seaside, so I've got one for you right there, that we live in an amazing, amazing place. Last week was sunny and beautiful, and this week we have the beautiful rain to help wash away a whole bunch as well. So you can find those things in anything if you commit to it. You've got to, it's committing not to wallow.
And I think that's the power of gratitude too, is that if you're going at it with the idea, I'm going to fake it till I make it, but you actually latch on to some of these things that you're grateful for. Those aren't fake. You're right. That's reality.
Right.
We actually are grateful for those things, and those things actually are positive. So
I do get outdoors every day, and I've really noticed in my particular smaller neighborhood walks, people are saying hello and smiling to me more than ever. Usually we can all kind of be in our own little world a little bit. I'll throw on headsets. I'll even have sunglasses on, things like that I'm not on the walk necessarily to socialize. But this quarantine, this distancing we've all had to do is bringing out some smiles. It's bringing out a little more of this type of human touch than
and even
I'm
though
used
we
to
can't
seeing.
be in the same room as most of our people, we're still connecting, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I just wanted to kind of bring in that conversation. Is there anything else that you can think of that we can?
I just really want to remind everybody that we're in this together. Don't feel alone, and don't treat others as if they are. Please, I would encourage that we don't approach things the exact same way. It's one of the beautiful things that makes the world go round. But there are certain systems to the way things work, and I promise you, if you focus on what you can be grateful for, if you focus on the benefits that are coming to this, it will help the panic that is inherent to this situation.
And as you start feeling that lightness, project it out.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, give it away.
Help change the collective doom and gloom into something of hope and positivity and connectedness. Thanks for joining in our conversation with us this morning. We may be doing more of this, and if you want to see more of this kind of thing, let us know. If you have a topic for conversation that you'd like to hear us talk about, or that you'd like to participate in yourself, please let us know that as well. We're still continuing to find our capabilities electronically to continue to connect and refining those. So thank you for being here in the Seaside Yoga Self-Care Clubhouse with us this Saturday morning, March 28th. Adios, everyone.
Amigos.